Well, perhaps the saddest of cards. Oftentimes, I know that sympathy cards could mean the most to the person you send it to. So in this lesson, we're going to be creating a simple sympathy card that you can send. Now, here is my example here that we'll be recreating. I've used a 6x6 stencil as well as a simple sentiment with deepest sympathy to create this card. If you don't have a stencil, if you could use a background stamp or some kind of pattern stamp or even a piece of pattern paper would be fine as well. I'm going to use this stencil because I find with a simple stencil and a single color of ink, I can get a really rich background color and technique while keeping it a really simple card. So I'm using the Distress ink in Chipped Sapphire and a foam blending tool, and I'm going to apply it. I'm going to start at one side here and work towards the center. I am going to apply more ink in some of the areas and less ink in other areas. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I want to get some variation to the color, and I love that when I am stenciling, if I'm using more ink or if I continually go over one area, it will add additional color. It will keep building into a richer color. And if in other areas I am using less, it's going to be a much fainter effect. So we're almost done here, just working my way around the stencil. And as long as you hold it in place with one hand, you can go back. You can take a look at your work and go back as needed. I'm just going to finish up this final corner here and put a little more ink there. Now, as I lift up, you can see there's just so much, there's so much color and depth. If you would like, as an additional, you can come through with the ink tool and add a little ink at the edges. And I am working here on a standard 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 folded card. You could work on another size as well. A square card would work well with square stencil. Now I'm going to take this same ink and I'm going to stamp, this is about 1 1/4 inch high piece of white cardstock. I'm going to ink up my sympathy stamp here and then stamp it towards one side of my cardstock. And what I like about doing this is it's going to be the same blue as the ink that I had used, so it's really going to coordinate nicely. And then just take my adhesive here and adhere it onto the front. If you would prefer, you could do a torn edge. I'm showing you here both versions I have with the straight and with the torn cut. Now, if you're struggling with what to write inside, I would suggest printing out either a quote or a poem or something, printing it out, and then you can glue it inside the card for that as well. Here are all three versions here. This is a different version here with a different stamp. If you wanted to use 2 colors of ink, that is certainly another option that you could do for a card like this.